A very good morning to all. I hope you all are fine and taking proper care of your online studies. I came back after a long time with new video, and in today's video we will begin with chapter number 10, Respiration in Organisms. So let's begin.
Just as a motor vehicle needs gas to run, we need energy to perform our daily functions. Energy is required to read, play, eat, and even to sleep. Likewise, animals and plants also need energy for living and growing. Can you guess from where do living beings get energy? Living beings get energy from the food they eat. Food has energy stored in the form of chemical energy. The chemical energy of food needs to be unlocked in the body cells of organisms. How is this achieved? By body process called respiration, which takes place in the cells of our bodies. Respiration, in its simplest sense, can be defined as a process by which living organisms burn food to produce energy. Thus, cellular respiration is important energy change. Chemical energy stored in food through respiration tends to energy for organisms. The process of respiration occurs all the time. It never stops. Why? Because living beings need a constant supply of energy for different activities and body processes. There are two basic types of cellular respiration: aerobic and anaerobic. Let's first take up aerobic respiration. The word aerobic stands for involving air or oxygen. You can now easily guess what aerobic respiration means. It is the respiration that takes place in the presence of oxygen. In aerobic respiration, food and glucose combines with oxygen to release energy needed by a cell. Respiration sometimes occurs without oxygen, as in the case of bacteria and yeast. This is called anaerobic respiration. In this case, glucose is only partially broken down and lactic acid is produced together with a much smaller amount of energy.
Now I get it. Sir, do the cramps I get after a rigorous badminton match because of the production of lactic acid?
Quite right, Binny. Another thing, Binny, fermentation happens because of anaerobic respiration. The baking industry uses carbon dioxide released by yeast cells in alcoholic fermentation in raising the dough and making bread spongy. So you see how important anaerobic respiration is in our lives.
Yes, sir. I cannot imagine my world without cakes.
True, Binny. I have an activity planned for you all. Are you up for it?
Of course, sir. I love activities.
For the activity we need glucose, oil, water, 2 flasks, glass tubes, stoppers, lime water, a burner and yeast. Now we are going to see how anaerobic respiration takes place. Start with boiling water to remove all the dissolved oxygen. Now, fill the 2 flasks with water up to the rim and seal them to prevent oxygen from entering. Allow the water to cool and then add glucose to each flask. Then add yeast to the first flask and no yeast in the second flask. Pour oil to each flask. A thin layer of oil on water surface prevents contact with air. Insert a thin glass tube from each stoppered flask into test tube containing lime water. Now what do you see, Binny?
I notice that no change takes place in the test tube containing lime water connected to the second flask. But in the first flask, bubbles of colorless gas escape from the flask and turn lime water milky.
This shows that the gas is carbon dioxide. This means that the yeast has produced carbon dioxide in the absence of oxygen, and therefore yeast has respired anaerobically.
Wow!
Imagine we have to walk from one place to another. For this, our brain thinks about the movement, instructs the respective muscles, and helps us perform the task. This is what we know as a voluntary activity. Now tell me, do we need to remind ourselves post some time that we have to inhale and exhale air? Or do we remind our heart to beat and pump blood? No, right? That just happens without our notice. These are the examples of involuntary activities. Involuntary activities are mostly the crucial ones that occur within us and which help us sustain life. Take this activity of breathing, for example. Isn't it extremely important? If we don't breathe, then how will all the cells in our body obtain the necessary oxygen for survival? And how will the toxic carbon dioxide be released out? Also, how will the cells derive energy if the food molecules are not broken down? So overall, respiration is extremely important. Now tell me one thing. Are breathing and respiration the same thing? I'm sure your answer will be yes. But that's not true. Let's understand what exactly the difference between the two is. To begin with, I want you to answer one simple question. How do we get the energy to perform all activities? Most of us will answer from the food we eat, right? Well, that's partially correct. The food we eat is the source of energy, which means that the energy is stored or locked inside the food. In order to unlock or derive the energy from it, the food needs to be broken down. And this requires oxygen. So we can say that the process in which the food is broken down in the cells with the help of oxygen to release energy is called respiration. And how is it different from breathing then? Well, breathing does not involve breakdown of food molecules inside the cells. In fact, breathing is purely the exchange of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide to be precise. So the activity of inhalation and exhalation is breathing, whereas deriving energy from food molecules with the help of oxygen is respiration. Does this mean that breathing is a part of respiration? Absolutely. Breathing is a smaller process which is considered as a part of the larger process of respiration. Let's once again go through the definition of respiration. It's the process in which the food is broken down in the cells with the help of oxygen to release energy. And how do the cells get oxygen? It's due to breathing, right? That's why we say that breathing is a part of respiration.